Yeah, dude. Stare, my bad, bro. Hot today. How you doing, the West? Hope you're doing well, brother. Yeah, I ended up, whoops. Oh, Boo, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. Here comes a quick ad, though. My apologies. Up all the way to 8 playing Legends. Nice. Legends is great. Beat the main game. Good. How was that Giratina fight? Oh, shiny Sligo. Sligo? Nice. Not there yet? Not yet there yet. It's the main game. Unless after the credits. Cap. Exclamation mark Discord, boo. Hey. No, I still haven't seen the new FNAF trailer. So FNAF Breach DLC. This motherfucker, man, shut the fuck up, bruh. Shut the fuck up, bruh. Hey, thank you for the 19 months though, but shut the fuck up, bruh. No, man, don't your tummy hurt, bruh? How much go deal with that, bruh? How much go deal with that, bruh? Want to try and find the fucking security breach? For that security breach DLC trailer. Official. Movie trailer. How much you shut your goofy ass up, bro? Honestly, dude, coming in here like that.
Cassie, I hope you get this message. I'm trapped here at the Pizzaplex, or what's left of it. I don't have time to go.
People are really coming in here like you're gonna spend the amount of time I was late in stream, bro. No. Your ass is gone, bro.
Go into how I got here.
Coming in here like
but
that,
you've
bro.
got to help me out. Save me, Cassie, please. It's so dark down
here. I have no clue what the fuck this concept is.
Gregory, run! Don't give up on me yet.
Huh. Hype it. Hype it. Because last time I did, I was disappointed. There's only so much they can do with the DLC. I'll be honest. But you know what? Maybe it'll be good.
Welcome to Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, where fantasy and fun come to life. Hit it, guys. If you're watching this video,
Why's the quality so bad? Oh, it's got that one guy in it, bruh. That guy was huge in, he's got like a whole Hulu series about him time traveling. I like this guy. Plus he was in, Hunger Games, right?
it means you've been selected as Freddy's newest security guard.
I like that guy. Ugh.
Hello?
We're going to have so much fun together.
Yeah.
We're going to have so much fun together.
The eyes look a little fucking wonky. Yeah. They be chiefin', bruh. They be chiefin'. Sheesh. Freddy the gang be getting turned when that fucking store closes. Get the fucking camera, bruh. The OG office. Kinda.
Hello?
Good. Giant fucking open restaurant.
We're going
Oh no!
to have so much fun
Who is she? I think I've seen her before too.
together.
Open Freddy or someone. Damn, bro. Eyes are weird as hell, though. Yeah. I don't know how they would make them better, though. I mean, like, the idea of this is menacing, right? Even then, I think it only goes so far. The white dogs. I don't know. The white dogs would be much better. Security guard that comes in and gets killed. Basically another form of using like the helmet and stuff. Looks okay. Looks alright. The games was scary AF. I don't know how much better it would be if they threw that in the movie. Maybe it'd be better. Mayhaps. Alright, what was the next thing to watch for Tube Tuesday? 10 most disrespectful animals? Sure! Let's see what some disrespectful ass animals do. Goddamn, bro.
Black Air Force energy. Good old Urban Dictionary defines it as a person or an object that has insane potential and is crazy enough to deal with anything without fear or hesitation,
True.
regardless of moral alignment, including its own rivals or competitors. And despite clearly taking grammar lessons from NBA Youngboy, I'd say whoever wrote that was pretty on point. It's a term I use a lot in my videos without really explaining exactly what it is. So here's a full list of the top 10 animals with the most Black Air Force energy. Some animals are an obvious pick, others might just surprise you. But they've all earned their spot, including the animal at number 10, which might have the least clout of any animal on this list, but that's only because it's found one place in the world. Because if this bird were airdropped across the globe, it'd definitely be more known for all the wrong
Yeah, birds are
reasons.
kind of fucking vile, bro. We learned that last time we watched this game.
Starting off is what happens when an animal is too smart for everyone else's quality of life. The Kia is a large parrot that can be found terrorizing the people of New Zealand.
Yep.
Don't let it fool you. This Black Air Force with a Grinch colorway is an op in every way. They're highly intelligent and armed with a hook-shaped beak, which is the perfect tool for Kias to inflate insurance by picking apart cars. You see, the Kia is smart enough to associate people and the
It's a
cars we
parrot.
drive with food, which is why this anti-mechanic is famous for committing the cutest carjackings you'll ever see. Of course, they don't just stop at cars. This feather felon will go through purses, backpacks, duffel bags, and swipe anything they
Damn,
can fly away
bruh.
with. There was even a case where this airborne pirate stole the passport of a Scottish man that didn't want to be identified. Because no one wants to be remembered for getting denied from your home country because you got your passport pickpocketed by a panhandling parrot. It happened to him and it can happen to you, but guess what? If you happen to get your wallet snatched and try to see the Kia about it, be prepared to also eat a several $1,000 fine and even jail time. Kias are protected by the government because it only makes sense that something with wings would be above the law. And it's almost
True.
like every Kia knows it and acts accordingly. But it's not just humans getting griefed. Kias will regularly raid other birds' nests and make omelets with their unborn children. And they'll use that Swiss Army knife of a nose to remove parts of a living sheep to eat, and there have been reports of them victimizing dogs and even horses. But at least the Kia isn't a legitimate physical threat to people. The next animal's responsible for putting more zookeepers on workers' comp than any other animal. The African wilderness has some of the most ways to F around and find out per square mile in the world. So it makes sense that living in the most dangerous area codes in the world has turned the zebra into an actual psychopath. This oppressed Oreo horse has the strongest kick in the animal kingdom, strong enough for Marty to have written Alex out of the sequel. Which is why, even though lions body them often, every once in a while
God,
a lion has to
dude.
explain to his ancestors how he got flatlined by a high-strung equality donkey. But the generational anxiety of being constantly hunted means the zebra will often one-shot something for existing too close to it. There's two reasons why you won't see a person riding a zebra. One, they're too small. And two, every zebra is fundamentally a bastard to its core. No, like literally. Because many mother zebras will actually mate with as many males as possible, because if she's showing and he suspects it's not hers, he'll violently press her until it's terminated. And if the baby's already out, that's just an invitation for him to demote her from mother to mourning. And going back to humans, zebras are infamous for allegedly putting as many zoo staff in the ER as any other animal. They may look like horses whose favorite part of a birthday is the finger painting station, but this panda pony's liable to paint the block with their insides if you breathe at them the wrong way. Treat one like a barnyard animal and negotiate your left hand. And because zebras are genetically closer to donkeys than horses, calling it the ass of Africa is a scientifically accurate title. And as the default protein of many of the landlords of the savannah, it's a title they hold with pride, cause it's the best one they can get. 10% off is also what you can expect if you treat this barcode horse as a petting zoo. But at least they have the excuse of constantly being plotted on. The next animal has less excuses but more disrespect. Deer manage to cause billions of dollars in damage a year by playing freeze tag.
Yeah,
with
deers
cars. That
are so
ironically makes them
problematic,
the most
dude.
dangerous animal in America. But where blissful ignorance makes deer a threat, the deer of Down Under initiate conflict. 9 out of 10 car
It's like
accidents
a
in Australia
kangaroo, bro.
involve kangaroos, and a good number of them are
Oh, it is
premeditated
kangaroos.
and not by the driver. Kangaroos assault vehicles with enough regularity to commit insurance fraud.
Jesus, bro.
In fact, kangaroos will regularly beef with inanimate objects. But it's not just a bluff. These are some brolic marsupials, armed with claws, but more importantly a sharp dagger of a toenail. Which is why it's not a kangaroo's punch you have to worry about, but that Jurassic
He
pedicure.
for real did that? He did.
It's what makes their sparring sessions so lethal. That and the fact that kangaroos start every day with the specific goal of inconveniencing
Look
as
at
many
that shit,
life forms as
bruh.
possible. If you happen to fly a drone in kangaroo country, prepare to have your insurance tested. In fact, it's not a stretch to say they hate anything that flies. Can you imagine how ridiculous this could have gotten? Imagine people thinking you died paragliding when really you survived but got mobbed by a pack of Royal
I've
Canis
seen
on
this,
impact.
bruh.
Kangaroos are number 8 because there's really no good reason for this. You see, as dangerous as Australia is, there aren't really any dominant apex land predators. While kangaroos often contend with dingoes and the occasional wedge-tailed eagle, a full-grown kangaroo doesn't have much that can threaten it, other than a bigger kangaroo. So my working theory is, they got cocky. And until nature airdrops some bears or maybe some type of big cat, kangaroos are still gonna be out here thinking they can do whatever. Try to change their mind at your own risk. As on-site as these malicious macropods are, they're not even the most disrespectful animal in Australia, and believe me, we'll get to that. The Big Five refers to the top 5 most dangerous animals to hunt in Africa. These include the elephant, the rhinoceros, the lion, the leopard, and an animal so feared it's been nicknamed Black Death. The African Cape Buffalo is a walking attempted homicide case armed with a pair of horns to make most attempts successful. They have one of the highest KD ratios against humans with guns. In some places, these tanks with road rage and 50% of the people they go after, and a lot of that is because they will actively seek revenge. There have been stories of one buffalo murking the same hunter that took out a member of its own herd. And whether you're a lion or a hunter,
don't
these
forget.
trench cows get it back in blood. And the scariest version of a Cape buffalo is one that's already been injured. Hunters have followed a mortally wounded buffalo into thick brush only for the freight train with legs to circle back and ambush them from behind. Which is why the #1 rule when hunting Cape buffalo, assume you only have one shot because that's usually all you get. But it's not just humans getting bodied. Bloodlusting buffalo will seek out unsupervised lion cubs and log them out of life before they can grow up to be a threat. Not like the adults aren't at risk either. Capes will stalk and circle lone lions using the threat of gang violence to give Mufasa a roommate. Which is how the same apex predator that can solo multiple hyenas can get sent up a tree like a house cat. They're like the Liam Neeson of animals. Wrong them and they make it their life's mission to co-sign your obituary. That first hit was self-defense. Everything after that was a personal choice. And even though experienced lions can take them down, it's still very much a gamble. Especially since they can travel in herds of hundreds. That's also how they earned the nickname Widowmaker. Cause right now there's at least one woman on Tinder cause her husband decided to hunt a 1-ton vibe check while the buffalo decided that would be the day he'd finally live up to his nickname. It's a murderous mammal, but like the zebra, it's often just self-defense gone way too far. Not like the antics of the next animal. If you're talking about the Black Air Force of the sky, you're probably talking about crows, or really just corvids in general. Crows are smart enough to manipulate their environment to their advantage, but they're also devious enough to manipulate other animals for their own sadistic pleasure. I don't know what that crow said at that cat, but
So the internet's ruined me because you know those videos where it's like, oh, look at my pet crow, dude, and it's like the fact that this crow brings this person like a fucking like a penny or like something every single day. You know what I'm talking about? It reminds me of that, dude. Every time I see a crow, I think, man, I want a pet crow. If you haven't seen the video, I'll pull it up real quick. Pet crow brings lady stuff daily. I love those.
Do you ever get that feeling that you're being watched?
I befriended some crows and now they bring me gifts.
The crows left us a present today in the form of money.
She
I don't
literally
know
just
where they
brought
found
money.
it, though, in Virginia.
I'm Tango, and this is a story about crows, or geobees.
She feeds them, I guess.
I enjoy boosting the local bird population.
Good morning. Rude?
When we saw the crows, I started just throwing peanuts around at them, and they eventually started coming on a more regular basis.
Yep.
I'm going. I'll meet you out back.
There's 5 crows total.
Isn't that crazy,
During
bro?
their breeding season, they
There's
have
the whole fucking family of crows that relies on you. Maybe my love language.
their older children come back to help mom and dad take care of the eggs and raise the babies. They work together like an extended family unit.
Got Doc and Dottie. Hi, guys.
The leader is Dom.
No, I'm good now.
Certainly involves someone's mother. Ravens will weaponize their relationship with wolves to call out hits on competing coyotes. Crows in Tokyo
Probably.
especially become a problem where they've basically gone to war against
I mean,
the entire
crows
human
eat other
population.
birds' eggs
But it's
all the
not just
time.
humans getting bullied. There might not be a worse time to be an owl than in broad
No,
daylight surrounded
poor
by a mob of
owl.
crows. Not to mention crows will often raid the nests of other birds for a disturbingly literal kids meal. And that's
See?
when they're not just straight up snatching minors in front of their parents. I think EDP just found a spirit animal. They'll regularly mob and harass other birds until they drop the food they've already caught. And crows won't hesitate to beat on much larger birds of prey, which might explain why they do the exact same thing with humans to get them to surrender whatever calories they have on them. But the avian onslaught peaks out with the Australian magpie. Now turns out they're not actually corvids. They actually sit closer to another bird with psychopath
So it's not even
tendencies.
crows?
Either way, Australian magpies manage to be the most feared thing
Like
in
a
a country
descendant?
seasoned with crocs, cassowaries, and snakes. And while most wildlife is harmless as long as you respect their space, the earth is their space, and they have no patience for trespassers. To the point where many Australians have taken to wearing helmets to protect themselves from the magpie's malicious intent, especially during swooping season, where magpies will relentlessly attack anything that gets near their nest. Actual human lives have been lost to this goth Tweety's tantrums. And since corvids can remember faces, once you've been swooped, you can expect the same treatment next year. I think Tirzu said it best, corvids are what would happen if you gave monkeys wings. But at least in the magpie's case, they're only a legitimate threat to a human way of life for the roughly 6 weeks of swooping season. Next animal is one of the biggest dangers to humans all year round. It was really only a matter of time before the river rhino made an appearance. Widely considered the world's deadliest mammal, you may have noticed that hippos weren't included in the Big Five, and I have to assume that's because nobody that has a desire to see the next day would actually hunt them. Arguably, no animal has a harder working PR team than the hippopotamus. First
Yeah,
of all,
hippos
it's
are
not the
fucking
goofy
awful.
lard donkey it lets you think it is. A thin subcutaneous fat layer means hippos
Units,
actually
though.
walk
Look at
in
all those
units.
muscles,
And
bro.
despite their awkward appearance, hippos can outpace any human over short distances, and that includes on land and in water, where they somehow become even more territorial. Hippos have been known to lower their senses
Look
to
at
those
that
of
shit,
other
bro.
animals for seemingly no reason. Just when an antelope thinks it's been bailed
Terrifying.
out, the slaughter horse does origami with its spine.
Oh
And even
my
though they're
God.
supposed to be herbivores, every once in a while they'll give into the temptation of tasting the flesh of their victims. Cannibalism is not off the table. Science doesn't really know why exactly they do this, but science doesn't account for an animal just being a dick. Few predators will press this obese water pig, and those that do so at their own risk.
Fucking
Hippos are so carnage happy that the biggest threat to a
disgusting.
baby
Destroyed.
hippo is a bigger, meaner bull hippo. It's how a hippo baby shower can legitimately end in a rain of flesh confetti. Now, to be fair, plenty of animals resort to infanticide. Hippos are just really mean about it. Like I said, nobody's PR team works harder. Except maybe dolphins. Which makes sense since despite resembling ungulates like warthogs and rhinos, the hippo's closest living relatives are actually cetaceans like dolphins and whales. But instead of making it out in the ocean, hippos decided to make a living griefing everything in its area code. And I didn't even mention the way they claim that area code. You know, if you unsubscribed right now, I wouldn't blame you. The only thing that can make this whale Karen more of a menace than it already is if it were a straight up predator, or if it hunted in packs. Then again, that would literally make it an animal further down this list. My personal bias was not going to keep the elephant off this list. As much as I love them, elephants can be a devastating combination of smart enough to do anything and big enough to get away with it. Asian elephants especially get themselves into trouble by raiding villages and emptying out their rice supply, which is why Asian elephants are responsible for the bulk of human hashtags, especially since they can be just as vengeful as the Cape buffalo. Earlier this year, a man in Thailand had an elephant working hauling wood in the brutal heat, which is illegal, and apparently the elephant knew his rights because he proceeded to rip his boss in half. And of course, we gotta
Jesus,
address the
dude.
I'm better than that. One elephant traveled over 100 miles to murk a 70-year-old woman collecting
It's
water.
crazy, because aren't elephants pretty close to dinosaurs too, or some shit? Elephants. I guess they're not related at all.
Water, only to pull up to her funeral to attack the soul evicted body, this time in front of her family. The biggest mystery of mankind is what motivated a 4-ton pachyderm to pack up an elderly woman twice. If he had a reason, it's not like he's gonna tell us. Elephants rank over hippos because where hippos commit war crimes in the heat of passion, when an elephant catches a body, you can almost be certain it was premeditated. And it's in populations that have been fragmented by poaching where young male elephants really fly off the handle. And bull elephants are already pretty high strung as it is, but they managed to get worse in communities decimated by poaching. To the point where 3 elephants in South Africa were responsible for deleting 63 rhinos as well as charging at people. Now, to be fair, poaching typically targets older bulls, and research shows that without old heads around, younger male elephants go into must a lot sooner than they should. Which I get. What I don't get is why that has to involve turning a rhino from a tight end to a wideout. What you have to remember is that elephants are intelligent enough to experience every human emotion like compassion, empathy, and grief. But for every headline like this, you might get a headline like this. And if elephants wore shoes, they'd rock the biggest black Air Forces the world's ever seen.
What was it? Elephant kills woman and returns to her funeral to attack her corpse. Damn, bruh. I've seen that. That went pretty fucking viral. My dude came for round 2, bruh. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna grab a water real quick and then we'll continue. We only got about 6 minutes left of this video. That's just petty? Nah, bruh. My dude wanted to fucking finish the job, bruh. Wanted there to be nothing left of this woman, bruh. All right. Yeah, I'm out of water. Let me go grab another water real quick. Be back real quick. Real quick. Alrighty. Have me some water. Look at the garage a little bit again. Were you asleep? My bad.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Man. How you doing, Strudel? I might just end today, bro. Tuesday might be... I don't know, bro. I keep having to go in and out of the fucking garage. That's for like 20 minutes. No, I left you for like 10. Oh, Sag. We'll at least finish this video. We'll see.
And if elephants wore shoes, they'd rock the biggest black Air Forces the world's ever seen. But that's only because the next animal on this list doesn't have legs.
Buffalo? Lions?
One of the biggest injustices of cinema is that where dolphins got cast as a lovable flipper, sharks got typecast as Jaws. Dolphins are the most disrespectful beings in the ocean. Makes sense because they're basically intelligent hydrodynamic hippos. They regularly bully sharks, use fish heads and live eels as marital aids, commit unprovoked acts of porpoiside, all while letting humanity think they're the good guys. They have mating practices so brutal that I probably can't even talk about them. Just know that what dolphins like to do to each other, guidelines might try to do to me. But we can't talk about dolphins without talking about the biggest dolphin of all. The orca is the most dominant apex predator.
Oh yeah, orcas are fucked up,
and as
dude.
if sheer size and intelligence wasn't enough, they typically hunt in pods with the coordination of a wolf pack, which is how this oppressive sea oriole regularly griefs the tankiest animals on the planet. They're such a force that great whites have been known to abandon hunting grounds for up to a year once this steroid equality guppy makes an appearance. Probably because they've been known to use the shark's biology against them to rob them of their heart and liver, just to leave the rest of the shark to sink to the abyss. And then there's the fact that orcas often practice their craft on other animals.
That's how smart they are too. They will purposely target a shark's liver and just let it die.
Which is why if you ever feel bad about penguins getting bullied by seals, I suggest you see what happens when a Navy SEAL joins the Air Force. And while you could chalk this up to hunting strategy, there's also the chance that living life on Roku difficulty means orcas get bored and just start trying stuff. And while it's true a wild orca has never taken out a human, that hasn't stopped them from actively messing with human vessels with disturbing regularity. It's like they know who's ruining the ocean and adjust their behavior accordingly. Either way, orcas are the humans of the sea, and anything that
look at this,
steps to
it
them
baits
gets
the
reminded
birds
of
with the
tradition.
fish and then
Even
fucking
moose
catches
of all
it.
things. Moral of the story, Free Willy should have been put on parole. The only thing more black Air Force than an animal that griefs everything around it would be an animal that commits atrocities against its own kind. And that's why orcas are only number 3.
Crazy, dude. Crazy
Ask
shit.
any zookeeper what animal they fear the most. If they don't say chimps, they've never worked with one. A common misconception is that
Chimps are
5
fucking
times stronger
crazy
than the
too,
average
dude.
man. And while the number is actually closer to 1.5, chimps have more fast twitch muscles, a stronger bite force, and a stronger grip force. Their ability to use tools is fascinating to watch, until you realize that means they're able to create and use weapons. People often forget that chimpanzees are pack hunting predators able to execute attacks with the precision of early man, and that doesn't just apply to their prey. Chimps in Luongo National Park have been documenting attacking families of gorillas and murking any helpless offspring they can get their hands on. Literally
bruh.
no animal safe from the violent tendencies of a furious George. But it's the damage they inflict against their own kind that puts them over the top. Chimp casualties often share the same injuries: a disfigured face, missing fingers if not entire hands, and a non-consensual neutering. Chimps seem to have an understanding of what's important to an animal, and they go out of their way to remove it. It's why I can show you this picture and you'll understand. And it's why instead of organ donor, I have, if ever maimed by a chimp, just let me die on my driver's license. And it's also why you probably have a better chance of surviving being locked in a room with a lion than in a room with a furry chainsaw with thumbs. The fact that a chimp can get put 6 feet under by members of its own troop guarantees them a spot on this list. The only way an animal could beat that is if something was enough of a menace to be a legitimate threat to itself. And that's exactly what number 1 is. But before we reveal number 1, here's some honorable mentions. The Canadian goose, for having the most irrational confidence of any animal. They actually almost went extinct, and now they revolve their entire existence around punishing humanity for it. Swans, because what geese think they are, swans always have been. Wolverines, because they're more than capable of hunting for themselves, but they'd rather tax animals 3 times their size for a living. Meerkats, for being quite literally the most homicidal mammals on the planet. And now at number 1, to absolutely no one's surprise, the honey badger, the most unapologetically disrespectful creature on Earth. I have an entire video dedicated to the exploits of this steroid skunk, but here are some highlights. They'll regularly pinch food from leopards and then throw a tantrum if they get caught. They'll take on packs of animals that realistically should be able to one-shot them. But the Oreo weasel has plot armor in the form of crackhead courage. They'll raid the hives of African bees, the same bees that are 10 times meaner and sting 10 times more than their European cousins. And honey badgers aren't immune to bee stings. They're resistant, but enough stings will flatline a honey badger. But ask the honey badger if he cares. He won't answer, but you know the answer. These prison ferrets also run fades with highly venomous cobras. If they manage to get bitten, they'll just slip into a cobra-induced coma and then wake up hours later and walk it off like a Sunday morning hangover. Even the honey badger's idea of self-defense is as offensive as you can get, as in they'll reverse their anal pouches inside out and release a smell so pungent it can allegedly paralyze attacking bees. And honestly, any animal that religiously attacks the baby makers of others is a different tier of menace. No other badger represented this better than Stoffel, who once escaped from his enclosure and picked a fight with a neighboring family of lions who nearly mauled him to death. After about 2 months in the hospital, the first thing the affiliated ferret did fresh out was go right back at the same lions to settle the score. And that was only one of the hundreds of times Stoffel managed to raise the blood pressure of the people around him. But here's the real kicker. Stoffel was actually hand-raised by humans at a young age and therefore imprinted on them. He had no intention of ever leaving. The whole thing was just a game to him. Because if blatant disrespect were a sport, they still wouldn't play it because anything involving rules goes against a honey badger's belief system. But that's gonna do it for this video. For more consistent content, be sure to
What was it he just said?
affiliated ferret did fresh out was go right back at the same lines to settle the score. And that was only one of the hundreds of times Stoffel managed to raise the blood pressure of the people around him. But here's the real kicker. Stoffel was actually hand-raised by humans at a young age and therefore imprinted on them. He had no intention of ever leaving. The whole thing was just a game to him. Because if blatant disrespect were a sport, they still wouldn't play it because anything involving rules goes against a honey badger's belief system. But that's gonna do it for this video. For more consistent content, be sure to follow my Instagram.
Yeah, honey badgers are fucking menacing too. Crazy, dude. Crazy, bruh. Watch Pegasus. I like Pegasus.
This TikToker got caught faking cancer. Probably one of the worst things you could possibly do for internet clout. Her name's Madison, and she concocted this absolute elaborate, insane
I'll let her
story
drop a
about
clout.
how she
Faking
has
cancer.
leukemia, stage 2 pancreatic cancer, and has
Awful.
a tumor a size of a football. Now, the motive for this is obviously to get money and clout. That's pretty much the motive for 99% of things. And for this reason, she set up a GoFundMe, which is like a fundraising site, and she told the internet, look at me, I have cancer, I'm so helpless, give me money. And people did. They gave her $37,000. Unfortunately, the problem with spinning a web of lies is that eventually you get caught. And actually scamming people for their money from the internet is considered a crime.
Fast forward to February of 2022. I had yearly lab work done just with
Face is great.
care provider as a standard checkup. And aside from starting to feel just a little bit off, my lab work came back and my white blood cell counts were not in normal range. So further testing was then done, and on February 10th of 2022, quite possibly the worst day of my life occurred. I got the call from my oncologist, and they found a mass on my pancreas, and I had stage 2 pancreatic cancer at just 19 years old.
How are people this heartless, man? How can you sit there with your fucking lion ass and tell people this harrowing story of how you got diagnosed with cancer? You can see that she's being pretty careful with what she says because she has to make sure that her story is consistent across all her videos, across all her lies, and the dates all match up. You know, you don't want someone on the internet analyzing this Marvel universe over here and finding out some lie, right? Unfortunately, she was stupid enough to post many more videos where it was much more obvious she was lying because she tried to actually fake the medical treatment and the medical equipment they use to treat cancer. Because to absolutely nobody's surprise, she has no idea how cancer treatment takes place at all.
Scared is an understatement. I was terrified, and I definitely still am. But I'm really glad I went to my yearly health check because it would have been so easy to just skip it and say I'm fine. So please take my experience and get regular lab work done, because the sooner you catch anything that is wrong, the better chance of outcome and survival you would have. And it really could save your life. like it did mine.
Ironically, it didn't really save your life. In fact, it pretty much ruined it, because the second you thought of this insidious plot is when your fate was sealed. To exploit the goodwill of charitable people on the internet and the nicest people in the entire world who are, willing to give their money to help a stranger across the internet, and to make them look like fools, like you have to be a different type of person. Personally, I've had a family member go through cancer, and to see them just deteriorate in real time is absolutely harrowing. This person was pretty big, and anytime I'd visit them, they would just get smaller and smaller and thinner, and they were just unable to move, lost their energy, unable to eat. It was just horrible to watch until eventually they passed. And to those of you who've been following me for a while, I've been through a very similarly bad situation, a fucking nightmare of a health condition, and the suffering you go through is just incomparable to anything a normal person can experience. We don't really talk about that now, kind of over that stage, but making a mockery of the pain and misery that people have to experience is just bottom feeder behavior. You're like Mr. Krabs of the online clout space. You would actually sell your soul for 62 cents.
So far, I have completed 8 rounds of chemo and over 50 rounds of radiation. When your life changes in an instant and many days are spent vomiting and pain and being restricted with what you can do, your mind also becomes sick.
You're right there. Your mind does start to become sick too, but you probably didn't need to go through cancer for that. You were just born like that. I imagine you suffer from something far worse than cancer. There's probably brain worms up there just eating up your moral compass. Anyways, later on we find out that the police launched an investigation into her claims, and they found out that she was bullshitting. And turns out you're not actually allowed to do that. I don't think there's a law against lying about your illness on social media, because a lot of people do that and nothing really happens to them. I think the crime here was definitely scamming people and, getting money out of them to pay for your non-existent illness. That definitely falls under scamming. Not to mention that huge organizations were actually donating to her and getting her to make these appearances on their shows. It's still ridiculous how faking the actual illness is not a crime as well, because we see people do that on a daily basis on TikTok, and then one day they get caught, and then they just kind of walk away like nothing happened, like, okay, I got my sympathy, moving on to another chapter of my life. But I guess it's kind of hard to verify every single person individually.
So in one interview, Madison Russo claims doctors told her she had an 11% chance of survival, and people, charities, cancer organizations, they all donated to help her fight cancer. Investigators say Madison Russo took more than $37,000 from Maddie's fight against pancreatic cancer. Authorities allege Russo spent the past year claiming she'd been diagnosed with leukemia, stage 2 pancreatic cancer, and a tumor the size of a football that wrapped around her spine.
You did this shit for a year? What the fuck, man? Have you no shame? Jesus Christ, a year. In the entire year, did you not have one thought that, hey, maybe I should reconsider doing this bullshit? Listen, at this point, we've had plenty of these similar stories before, and I've learned that you just cannot trust people online. And despite how kind you are and caring of other people, you need to see some sort of evidence before you start donating, okay? You need to see a medical record, you need to see confirmation by friends and family, or you need to see some physical deterioration. She seems absolutely fine. Because regardless of how good you think you're being, because of the existence of these scumbags, we cannot give people the benefit of the doubt anymore. People are willing to exploit the system. If you are one of those people who are kind enough to donate to charities or people in need, you have to be more wise with your judgment. And when you actually make a donation, please follow through and make sure you know exactly where your money's going and that it's being used for the purpose you intended it for. You wouldn't know this, but a lot of the popular charities you see that a lot of even YouTubers promote, they are complete scams.
Police tell us they're reviewing all of Russo's posts as part of the investigation. In a press release saying witnesses with medical experience pointed out the many medical discrepancies, including terrible, life-threatening inaccuracies of her medical equipment placement on her body.
The alleged scam was first spotted by doctors who wondered about this image that supposedly showed her getting chemo. It's not the way a medical port should look. The telltale giveaways, it's not sterile and it's not secured with medical tape. Look, this is a real medical port used for cancer patients. It's easy to see the difference. I spoke with cancer patient Anna Kauer-Kovetsky.
So the chest port is actually like a like a little port under my skin. It was inserted by a surgery.
Wow, you just did a horrible job of faking this, didn't you? Apparently you don't even need to put any effort into this shit and you just can get the sympathy of people. Now, by far the worst part about this situation is the fact that those donations and support could have gone to actual cancer patients. That's pretty much what makes it insanely fucked up. The fact that you're detracting from people who actually have these illnesses.
Louis Frillman is one of hundreds who gave to the GoFundMe supporting Russo. His $500 donation has been refunded.
My thinking is say a prayer for this young kid because she's going to have a lot of terrible consequences.
It really takes a special kind of evil person to do this, to make a mockery of the suffering that people actually go through. I genuinely think this type of shit deserves like at least 20 years in prison. Maybe I'm biased here, but I genuinely just do not have the slightest bit of sympathy for these people. Sorry for the sad story. Click this video. Hopefully something better. Bye-bye.
Yeah, that's about it. Turns out the video was longer. Yeah. Welcome back, thank you. Yeah, I'm busy today, dude. It hasn't even been fucking an hour and a half though, dude. Go do what you have to do. No, it's fine, dude. I should be good now. Rox? Was Rox here? Did Rox change the name again? What the hell? I've been mad about this for years. What is this? Teen throws her baby in the trash. God, people are terrible. I wanted to watch more Philip DeFranco. More Philip DeFranco. Philly D.
So, you beautiful bastards, welcome back to the Philip DeFranco Show, your daily dive into the news.
All right, let's hear it.
Let's just jump into it, because there's so much to talk about today, starting with our D-bag of the day. Some have called him a crusty little barnacle scraped off the taint of British culture, because we're talking about the latest viral TikTok prankster who's been riling up the internet. An 18-year-old by the name of Mizzy. According to him, he's been doing the social media stuff since he was 8 years old, but he didn't blow up until just 2 weeks ago. And that's because that's when he and 2 of his friends filmed themselves in London doing a prank. It wasn't a prank, right? Because what they did can only be described as a literal home invasion. Because key context here, as far as we know, these people are absolute strangers.
Welcome back, Roxy. Look at this shit. Someone else's home.
James? You man, come. Hello, James. We need to speak to James. Is this where the study group is?
No. What door number is this?
No. Study group.
It sits down, bro.
Wait, this is not where the study group is.
got kids, man.
Oh, you got kids? Oh, sorry. Oh, I thought this was the study group. I actually thought.
So naturally, people see this and they're fucking furious, with many calling it criminal, demanding that he be arrested, even some government MPs from both parties condemning this, asking social media companies to censor him. But also with this, turns out that's not the first time he just barged into someone's home. Right, in another video, he does the exact same thing, but instead of talking to them, he just walks around, kind of giggles like a little schoolgirl, and then runs out. Then in another of his famous pranks, he approaches an elderly woman just minding her own business at a park bench and steals her dog.
You got a nice dog.
She's lovely, she's
Gang, whole lot of gangs. We outside. We outside.
And there's plenty of others, just kind of a scatter shot, whether it's him
I
appearing
hate
to
this
tear up
guy.
a book at a library or him just asking random women.
I'm
if
throwing
they
the
want
book at him,
wine.
though.
As more people have found out about this, we've seen bigger and bigger names speaking on it. People like Moist Critical.
This guy has never once shown any amount of humanity in any of his content. Everything he does in the most malicious way possible, treating people like props to either scare or steal from or invade the privacy of. He is the most unlikable prankster on the internet.
With this, we've also seen people criticizing the police for not taking this guy seriously enough. And here, I'd say I'd absolutely agree. Because it really feels like there's no end in sight for what he might do. Because when looking into this, I found that Mizzy's actually still doing this shit even after the Brits arrested him for a string of videos that he posted back in February. With him in
Wait,
nose,
he's
appearing
still
to harass
doing it?
Orthodox Jewish people in one video, placing his hands on a man's shoulders and trying to leapfrog over him. And again, that's just one of those. Yet despite his arrest for those stunts, which many have called anti-Semitic, he was released without any charges. Except now, one of the big updates today is he has been arrested again. Though this time presumably for his home invasion video, and both his TikTok and YouTube accounts have also been taken down. But with all this, we saw Mizzy defending himself, saying in an interview with The Independent, "I'm a black male doing these things, and that's why there's such an uproar on the internet." And look, while you have general scumbags like the Matt Walsh types trying to use this situation as like, oh look, another example of white people need to be scared of minorities.
On the other hand, black people committing crimes against white people for sport is common. In fact, it's so common now that it's one of the fastest growing genres on social media.
But the fact that he's black should have nothing to do with it. He's a scumbag doing scumbag things, thus he should be treated as one. That's it, and the unfortunate thing with him is he is just the latest example of the, I'd call it the death to decency. With even Mizzy himself saying he cares less about whether he's getting love or hate, that it's all about getting engagement, and quote, it's the fact that people are talking that's important. With him also adding that controversy and outrage are the best ways to blow up on social media, and saying, again, his words, I know exactly what I'm doing and the consequences of my actions. So with that, also trying to defend himself, saying that he apologized to the homeowners the day after breaking in. But with all that said, it's going to be interesting to see what all comes from this arrest and what comes with police involvement, because honestly, outside of that, there's no reason to expect him to stop or change. When you have people that see any attention as the attention they crave, and when they find that you having a reaction, however justified and understandable, as a win for them, they will continue until
he gave it back, but that's the whole premise of his pranks.
And of course, with this, I want to pass a question off to you. What are your thoughts here? And then Texas's abortion law forced a woman to give birth to a stillborn baby, and now she's suing. In an interview with Rolling Stone, Kirsten Hogan said that she was 19 weeks pregnant when, just days after the ban went into effect, she woke up in excruciating pain and was rushed to the hospital. Hogan then saying that her water had broken, but once she had gotten to the hospital, she had lost too much amniotic fluid for the fetus to survive. But claiming the hospital staff didn't tell her that, and explaining, they didn't tell me much about my son's chances of survival. But the one thing they did make clear repeatedly was that I should not leave. I was told that if I tried to discharge myself or seek care elsewhere, that I would be arrested for trying to kill my child. So of course I stayed. And she was kept at the hospital for 5 days, during which she said she was repeatedly visited by religious counselors, even though she declined their care. She also said she was so scared to even go to the bathroom because she was worried she was going to go into premature labor and be arrested. And so on the 5th day, she eventually went into labor and gave birth to her stillborn son, with her then being discharged, told she could go back to work the next day as if nothing had happened. And the reason she's sharing, and we're now hearing her story, is that she and 7 other women have joined a lawsuit challenging Texas's abortion ban, as well as 2 other overlapping bans, with the women in the suit alleging that they were denied access to abortions even though they were experiencing serious medical complications. Right, notably, all 3 bans specifically include exceptions for medical emergencies, but the language in the laws is incredibly vague, and with the overlap between the 3 bans, there's been a ton of confusion. And all this is the incredibly strict penalties the law set out have made many medical providers err on the side of caution rather than putting themselves at risk legally. And so as a result, the lawsuit asks that a judge clarify what constitutes a medical exception under the abortion bans, with his most recent filing also asking the judge to impose a temporary injunction to block the state's bans in cases of complications until the matter can be resolved. And then, in Guess Who's Apologizing Today news, let's talk about skincare brand Biore. And they're apologizing because of this TikTok campaign they did with influencer Cecily Max Brown, who's a recent graduate of Michigan State University, which saw a tragic school shooting on campus earlier this year.
Thrown countless obstacles at me this year, from a school shooting to having no idea what life is going to look like after college. Supportive Mental Health Awareness Month, I'm partnering with Biore Skincare to strip away the stigma of anxiety.
We want you to get it all out. Not only what's in your pores, but most importantly, what's on your mind too.
Ray Cecily is seemingly making a comparison of clearing the blackheads from your nose to clearing your mind, or the PTSD from a school shooting. It was also by no means the only time she mentioned the shooting.
Anxiety in my life has come in waves. I found myself recently struggling from seeing the effects of gun violence firsthand. I've had to intentionally set aside time for prioritizing my mental health. I will never forget the feeling of terror that I had walking around campus for weeks in a place I considered home, with countless anxiety attacks to crying alone in my room at night.
With all of that meant for the company's campaign for Mental Health Awareness Month, while also promoting a high-margin consumer good. While that video was posted last week and later removed, the criticism has continued, with people accusing the company of using a school shooting to sell its products, calling it soulless. All of this prompting Biore to issue an apology earlier this week, writing that for several years it's partnered with influencers who have experienced anxiety and depression to reduce mental health stigmas, saying mental health is one of their consumers' biggest priorities, but also adding, this time, however, we did it the wrong way. We lacked sensitivity around an incredibly serious tragedy, and our tonality was completely inappropriate. We are so sorry. Max Brown also posting a TikTok where she apologized, with text on screen saying she just intended to spread awareness, not suggest a product fixed the struggle she had experienced as a result of the shooting, and adding, I did not mean to desensitize the traumatic event that took place, as I know the effects that it has had on me and the Spartan community. Though that's not the end of TikTok in the news today, because when we last talked, Montana's governor signed a law banning the app in the state. It's slated to take effect right at the start of the year.
TikTok is suing them now.
As we talked about, it was almost certainly going to face legal challenges. And now, boom, here we are. TikTok is suing the state of Montana. Right, because some of the specifics here, the law doesn't target people who use TikTok. Rather, it would find companies that would allow the app to operate within Montana, including TikTok itself and app stores like Apple's and Google's. And so now TikTok has slapped Montana with a lawsuit and saying they want to prevent the state of Montana from unlawfully banning TikTok, arguing that the ban abridges freedom of speech in violation of the First Amendment. This is also notably not the first lawsuit the ban has faced, with last week a group of TikTok creators also filing a lawsuit with similar arguments. But ultimately, this is just the beginning of a much longer road of legal
A lot
battle.
of protesting
Most
today.
of us have had health issues that maybe we've resorted to texting
I'm
that group chat
protesting,
with,
but
looking for
that
advice.
one
key
guy,
thing
bro.
being your non-doctor friends
Lots of
group chat.
UK
Maybe not
today, I
the best
guess.
way to go, and that's where the fantastic partner and sponsor of today's show comes in, ZocDoc. Millions of people use ZocDoc's free app to find and book a doctor in their neighborhood. You'll find thousands of medical professionals there to help you. They listen like a friend, they give you expert care that you need. And ZocDoc is the only free app that lets you find and book doctors who are patient-reviewed, take your insurance, and are available when you need to connect you to your easy male fantasy or the show of the summer.
Idol starring Lily Rose Depp plays the sordid male fantasy TV review.
That's the debate people are having right now after Sam Levinson and The Weeknd's new show, The Idol, premiered at Cannes yesterday. It stars Lily Rose Depp as a pop star, and there's been so much anticipation for this release. And not just because Levinson's the creator of Euphoria, a massively successful show, but also because The Idol has already faced tons of backlash, with this largely over a March report from Rolling Stone that likened it to torture porn, also alleging that there was chaos, turmoil, and toxicity behind the scenes, and very notably claiming that The Weeknd and Levinson were behind those issues. But sources saying that Levinson's vision turned into a show about a man who gets to abuse this woman and she loves it. But of course, as often is the case with stories like this, no one had actually seen the product, so there's no real way to speak on the content and really have any idea to know what the public might think. That is, until now, since the first 2 episodes played at the Cannes Film Festival last night, and as one critic put it, prepare yourself for quite the discourse.
Discord makes my dick hard.
For some. And as far as specifics, according to Variety, in just those 2 episodes, audiences will see, quote, revenge porn photos of bodily fluids on Depp's face and masturbation with ice cubes. Additionally, the Daily Beast calling it a lazy and horrific depiction of rape culture, and Collider saying that it's a shallow attempt at shock value. The Hollywood Reporter saying it makes you wonder if in trying so hard to become transgressive, the show ultimately becomes regressive. We've also seen tons of people discussing how much nudity there is, and another critic calling it a Pornhub homepage odyssey, which is also why it's not surprising that on Rotten Tomatoes it has a critic score of 14%, though, of course, that can change as more people see it, and that'll be in addition to whatever the public reaction ratings are. But in general, we saw a lot of people going, okay, the reactions we're seeing now, it just really confirms the Rolling Stone report back then. But also for their part, while speaking to the press yesterday, the cast defended itself against the Rolling Stone report.
It's always, you know, a little sad and disheartening to see mean, false things said about somebody that you really care about and that you know is not like that. And yeah, it wasn't reflective at all of my experience shooting the show.
We also saw Sam Levinson kind of reveling in this controversy.
We know that we're making a show that is provocative. When my wife read me the article, I looked at her and I just said, I think we're about to have the biggest show of the summer.
Levinson also saying the specifics of the Rolling Stone report were completely foreign to him. And so with all that, we've seen 2 drastically different reactions. Right, we have the side that are very excited to watch this, and there's a whole range of people there, right? Some people that are just fans of the creators, some who want what appears to be a Cinemax show, but also people that just want to be able to judge it for themselves. But also on the other side, you have people saying, can we, the internet, please take this as our cue to not make The Idol the biggest show of the summer? And adding Sam Levinson is seemingly proud that a series glorifies the exploitation of women, and it would be clench his fist so cool if we didn't validate that by hate watching it. But for now, we'll ultimately have to wait to see how all this plays out. I will say, I do not doubt that the premiere is probably going to get crazy numbers. I think especially when you have some big names attached, people are going to at least want to check it out. But then after that first episode or 2, that's when I think the numbers get really interesting. Does it hook people for whatever reason? Or is this shock value and then that's it and there's not much substance? So we'll see how it plays out. And then there's been a horrible crisis that's been happening in plain sight that much of the media has been too scared to talk about. It's enough to make you go, Mamma Mia! Because the price of pasta right now is through the roof. In just the last 2 months, it's gone up dramatically, rising 17.5% in March and 16.5% in April. And the sudden spike has led to some groups calling for a pasta strike of at least 15 days to drop consumption and bring down the price. Something that hasn't been done since 2007, which I get it. For a lot of people, this seems like a joke. But, you know, it's a staple food in Italy, and it's like when eggs and milk skyrocketed here in the States. Where people were understandably upset. They felt like it was a sign that the economy was failing, even if there were other factors that explain the price surges. But in Italy, this is being taken very serious right now, with this pasta crisis even leading the government to call a meeting 2 weeks ago with industry leaders about how to address this issue. However, little came from that after some called for a pasta price cap to be placed. Though there is some light at the end of the tunnel now, with reportedly the sudden price hike being because current pasta stocks were made months ago when the price of raw goods like wheat was much higher because of things like the war in Ukraine. And since those high supplies of normalized and raw goods have gone down in price, with it expected that the price for pasta is going to follow. And there, the Ministry of Business is saying that the survey of prices are already showing the first, albeit weak, signs of a drop in prices, a sign that in the coming months the cost could drop significantly. So Italians, do not worry. This is being handled. There's not a single stunat on this issue, and very soon you'll be able to make some cacio e pepe in peace. I'm the least Italian ever. And then new evidence just dropped that really makes it seem like Trump obstructed justice in the Mar-a-Lago documents investigation. Because according to a new report from The Guardian, prosecutors have 50 pages of notes from Trump lawyer Evan Cochran that show the former president was explicitly told he could not keep any more classified documents after he was subpoenaed for their return. And as far as why that matters, because like we've talked about multiple times before, we know for a fact that while complying with the subpoena, Cochran, he found around 40 classified documents in a storage room at Mar-a-Lago and told the DOJ that no more were on the property. But then, of course, the FBI raid a few months later discovered about 100 more. And now this latest report is incredibly significant because it adds a major piece to the puzzle prosecutors are trying to piece together. Whether Trump obstructed justice when he failed to comply with the subpoena by refusing to return all the documents he had, or if he even went as far as to intentionally try to hide them. But as The Guardian noted, prosecutors have absolutely been fixated on Trump's valet ever since he told them that Trump directed him to move boxes out of the storage room both before and after the subpoena. We know from before that his actions were captured on surveillance footage. And according to the outlet, 3 people familiar with Corcoran's notes said that the pages revealed that both Trump and the valet, quote, had unusually detailed knowledge of the botched subpoena response, including where Corcoran intended to search and not search for classified documents at Mar-a-Lago, as well as when Corcoran was actually doing his search. And at one point, Corcoran allegedly noted how he had told the valet about the subpoena prior to his search for the documents because the lawyer needed him to unlock the storage room, thus showing how closely involved the valet was from the get-go. With the notes also reportedly saying that the valet even offered to help go through the boxes, but Corcoran declined. And very notably here, his notes also suggested to prosecutors that there were times when the storage room might have been left unattended while the search for classified documents was ongoing. So something on its own that is pretty damning, but especially when you combine it with other reports that we've already seen on the matter, that including Corcoran's grand jury testimony. Right, just a few weeks ago, the New York Times reported that Corcoran had testified that multiple Trump employees specifically told him the Mar-a-Lago storage room was the only place the documents were kept. And what's more, he also allegedly testified while under oath that while he believes Trump, quote, did not personally convey that false information, the former president did not tell his lawyers of any other locations where the documents were stored, which may have effectively misled the legal team. And beyond that, the only reason that Corcoran has handed over these notes was because he was ordered to do so by a court that ruled that the materials were not protected under attorney-client privilege. And that because there was a reason to believe the lawyer's advice or services were being used to further a crime, meaning prosecutors believed they have enough evidence to prove Trump may have acted criminally. And so that's why with all of this, right now you have a lot of legal analysts saying things aren't looking too hot for the old guy. But then the last thing that I want to talk about today is actually just for you, the most dedicated of beautiful bastards who watch the full show. I know some people have expressed that they're confused about the schedule of all the additional content, right? In addition to the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday Philip DeFranco show, we had that week where we did 4 additional morning videos. I went back last week and we did another Sunday video. And there, I just want to clarify, all of those right now are tests. We do something, we see how it plays out over the next 7 to 14 days. We then figure out if we can replicate that with the current staff, current things. Do we need to change stuff? Because 1, we want to make sure that our output doesn't make our heads explode. And 2, as I think a number of the bankruptcies in the space have shown, growing with the expectation that everything is going to succeed is not a guarantee of success. But I will say, based off of the early data, I'm more and more inclined to making morning videos a more common thing. That is not in stone yet. And hey, if you appreciated this insight at the end, let me know in those comments, because otherwise I'm speaking into the void. But with that said, thank you for watching this Tuesday Philip DeFranco show. My name's Philip DeFranco. You've just been filled in. I love yo faces, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay, dude. It's about 2 hours. He left again, yeah. I think I'm gonna call it, dude. I keep having to leave, and I'm not feeling it, dude. I'm calling it. Tomorrow we'll look at some stuff. Probably do an extra long stream tomorrow. Sorry, guys. You guys will take care. Sorry for the lackluster stream. You guys have a good rest of the night. Peace out.